Welcome to another edition of the Three Horsemen podcast. Sean Campbell, Sean Starr, Mitch Gallo, your three horsemen, courtesy of betonline.ag. And we encourage you to use that promo code. Go do it right now. Horsemen. And you could tell we're already ready for golf. I got my golf shirt on, my golf hat on. That's pretty much the only golf gear that I own, but I'm ready for Masters Week. I know, Sean, you were off golfing. You're ready for Masters Week, right, Sean?
Pretty much. Spent last week in Newport. Got 9 rounds in about 6 days. So, Jeff, welcome to the program, dude. I'm primed, ready to go. Locally, my hands still have calluses from my trip in California, but I'm ready to put those hands to work with hopefully some profitable propositions ahead of the Masters. How you doing, man?
I am doing very well, guys. Masters Week. Quite jealous of all the golf you seemingly got to play over this time of the year. But yeah, Masters is upon us, so it only means good things and lots of time in front of the television.
So our guest today on the Three Horsemen podcast is Jeff Feinberg. Jeff, just give us a little background, because I know that when it comes to golf and when it comes to odds and betting, you got to go to you. So give us a little background on where you're coming from and where you love the game of golf and your history with it.
Well, I guess just like a lot of people, I love playing golf. I love watching the best players in the world play golf. I love betting on golf myself. Born and raised in Toronto, I spent the most of my adult life jumping from worked at the Score satellite radio, TSN radio, did all that stuff, and finally found a niche at maybe the right time in the gambling fantasy space, and found a niche betting golf. And I'll be honest, maybe the only reason I still do this, and because it's Masters Week, I can prop it up, but I hit the Danny Willett the morning after the Super Bowl, proclaimed he was, bet him to win the Masters at 150 to 1. He won the Masters. All of a sudden, things kind of my trajectory in the space changed, and anytime I got to bring that up, I'm happy, and it's a fun week to do it. But I love betting on golf, and I see a lot of people getting into it. And once you get a taste for it, betting or fantasy wise, you realize it can be as fun as betting on the other sports, which we're so much more familiar with gambling on.
Well, how does it differ in your mind compared to gambling on the other sports? What are some of the things you like to take a look at? Obviously, it's an individual sport, so it's not the team sports that we usually talk about. And when you go back to that great pick that you had, why did you go with it at the time?
Honestly, I just had a newborn and was up watching a ton of European Tour golf, and he just seemed to have it, and he kind of carried it over, because by the time that Masters went off, he was 12th in the world and was kind of like 50 or 60 to 1. So doesn't actually hold up as such a huge long shot like some others potentially in Masters history. But I don't know, just like he passed the eye test. That was as simple as that. It was a big number, and it worked for me. And I forget the first part of the question. Sorry.
Just in general, comparing betting on golf to other sports that we like to look at usually.
Well, let's be honest. Like the reality is, especially when it comes to the outright betting market, you make a golf bet. It's kind of like buying a new car and driving it off the lot. I mean, there's 1,000 variables. This is a smaller field, an elite field, but I never feel like, and I like to do it anyway, that we're getting fair numbers in the outright market, but it's the only kind of world that I know. You got to be prepared, and I'll say this as a guy, coming on to talk about hopefully winning money this week. From the outright market, you got to be prepared to go cold and have a bit of a war chest. It's not easy to hit an outright golfer. You got to enjoy those wins. There are methodical ways there. You can choose your own adventure with betting golf. Full tournament matchups are far more conducive to a lot of the newer age gamblers that love to use the analytics and making models. Like, they can see true advantages in that, in the same way you can see true advantages on your standard weeknight MLB, NHL, NBA game, that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess from an outright betting perspective, I got to be prepared sometimes to go a handful of weeks without hitting an outright winner. And that's kind of part of it. It's not like picking a football game aside, a total, it's easy. There's a way to battle back. There isn't really. You got to just stay committed to it, to be honest.
Oh yeah, and you got all sorts of options, as you alluded to already off the top, Jeff. Whether it's group betting or whether it's value in a top 5 or a top 10 finish, various player prop bets, so on and so forth. Lowest round scores. I mean, you can spread it around pretty thoroughly. And let's talk about for a second, like how you go about approaching an invitational like the Masters, arguably the weakest field of any major we're going to watch this year. Knowing, you see JJ Spawn win the Valspar in San Antonio. I mean, it's so unpredictable. What is that? The 9th different winner this year on tour. We're really seeing a lack of consistency. A lot of new guys winning, even though, he's kind of an older player to win for the first time on tour. How does that affect the thinking going into an invitational like the Masters on Thursday?
Yeah, the Masters, guys, is honestly its own sort of beast in many ways. And to be fair, like if you kind of even bet golf as recently as the Players' Championship, you'll see the sports books are kind of on to what's about to happen here, guys. It's a 90-man field. There's a handful of ex-champions and young amateurs that have no chance. 50 guys get to make the cut. It's almost like a glorified WGC, which has no cut many regards. And week in, week out, like the Valero last week where Spawn won, was circling it with Bo Hostler, wasn't lucky enough to be on Spawn, but I like playing long shots, and I do throw my darts deeper down the board and can start a card for an event like that. Like even my first bet could come in at 50-1. This is the Masters. I truly believe in the Brooks Koepka theory of the demarcation point of how many guys can actually win an event like this. I truly do buy into that. So my betting, at least outright, is more top heavy. Although I do like to find some ways to bet some of the longer shots in top 5s, top 10s, as we mentioned, guys that I think can have strong weeks. But yeah, this event is one that I don't really bet it. For once, the Masters, I'd love to get overexposed. Football season ended a long time ago. It's time to, I don't want to say lose some money, but let's have some fun again. And yeah, it's just honestly like history has kind of shown us it's a pretty top heavy event. And the biggest surprises are sort of even like last year. It's like a Hideki, a guy that you kind of aren't shocked to win. It's still 40-50-1, but honestly, it's very hard, in my opinion, to think we're going to see a winner north of 50-60-1.
Chatting with Jeff Feinberg here on the Three Horsemen podcast, Campbell, Starr, and Gallo. Jeff, just at the top, the favorites, and it's John Ram, Justin Thomas. Just do you like that they are? I know that's where the betting lines are. Clearly, Ram was probably going to be the favorite coming in, and he was a favorite probably months ago. But what do you think of the guys that are at the top of the field when it comes to the odds for the Masters?
It's easy to acknowledge Rahm and Thomas. They should be the favorites. I think their games. Rahm doesn't feel like he's ever played poorly here. I think the firm and fast greens might be the perfect cure for what's been ailing him around the greens. He just leads in approach time after time at the Masters, so he does seem a perfect fit. I'm just not going to bet the standalone favorite, although it was tempting, nor am I going to bet Justin Thomas, who does feel like he's trending and setting up very well. With Justin, for a player priced that low, though, there's a lot of putt luck that it feels like you're going to need to count on for Justin Thomas, who has been struggling in that regard for a little bit of time right now. So I have not pulled the trigger at the very top of the board, although they both scare me greatly.
So we were kicking around the Tiger Woods story right before you jumped on with us, and it's going to dominate headlines. It's going to be the number one thing people are talking about this week. But I was telling the guys, and maybe you could give us your opinion on this, if you're just throwing a few dollars down for fun because you like Tiger and want to be entertained, that's fine. But if you're betting on him to do anything else, I would really say buyer beware.
Yeah, I like everybody. I hope he plays. I think it'll be magical. I don't think he's showing up to shoot 80. Like, I don't think that's part of the equation either. But yeah, I don't know. I've gotten a lot of messages about people showing me their Tiger bets. I'm not into it. It's not even like the old classic way of having the Tiger bet, like your classic Vegas ticket that maybe you would just want to have that would be worth a couple bucks. I'm not seeing any part of that. And I'll be interested to see what sort of prop markets they do come out with for Tiger. I know there's the make the cut to, that wouldn't shock me, but he's 50-1, 60-1 in the outright market. I'm not looking to pick on Tiger guys, but if they put him up head to head versus like a Shane Lowry, like guys in that similar outright odd, I don't know that I'll be able to resist. And it doesn't mean I want to pick on Tiger, but if I get big plus money on even a Sergio, a Fleetwood, like I'm just naming names that are in that 70, 80-1. If they're actually going to price head to heads like the outright market, which I don't know that they will with Tiger, I might be here to pick on him. At the same time, if he wins, I'll be, or even plays great, it'll be magical. I'm just not there. I'm not seeing any part of even a top 10. Like, I'm having a hard time believing it. It would be incredible, and I'd love it, but I'm not here. I'm not seeing it, no.
Plus 100 to miss the cut, minus 130. Lay a little bit to see Tiger make the cut. If you put a gun to my head right now, I would take the plus 100 to Tiger to miss the cut. I'm the degenerate that watches the driving range. When I went to the Masters in 2019, I didn't leave the driving range. I just waited around, watched guys hit balls, watched guys take lessons. I'm watching Tiger's 1 minute commercial through the Masters.com website. Like, I'm watching him hit balls and I'm watching him walk around the course. Like, just from my very distant perspective, looks like a guy who's really fighting Navy SEAL style to be at Augusta, because everybody with a pen and a microphone and a podcast said that he wasn't going to play there. And now he's there with Joey. And I don't know if walking medalist with his caddy translates to walking Augusta and playing over 7,000 yards of competitive golf, even though he's won it countless times. It's a pass for me, personally speaking, all day. Jeff, if I could take you down the board, looking at guys like Corey Connors, plus 450. We're talking outrights now. Former champ Adam Scott, plus 475, again in the outright market. Like, if we're talking sample size, in the last 50 rounds for Corey Connors, he's the top 10 ball striker. I mean, are we talking a chance to find an opportunity here at plus 450 for an outright winner, or would you rather have Adam Scott if I asked you to pick between the two?
I would probably take Adam Scott, but Adam Scott is the lone guy I came into the week with a bet on already from around Christmas at 80-1. But I'm a huge Corey Connors fan. You mentioned the ball striking. He gives himself countless opportunities. I believe he was a first-round leader as a debutant just a couple years ago. But Scott, I mean, his around the green and putting stats are really trending in the right direction, which is a great sign for him because we know how prolific he can be with his ball striking. If there was one sort of senior player, and it's unfair to even put him in the classification Phil would have been in a year ago, and the odds certainly reflect that. But if there's one guy that I thought would totally be able to rededicate himself one more time to take on this powerful youth movement in the game, it was Adam Scott. So I do have a bet on him to win this week already, to be a two-time Masters champion. Therefore, for the purposes of that question, I do lean Scott.
So that means you were looking at value back at Christmas, like you said, at 80-1 for Scott. Is it, when you're looking at the odds heading into the weekend, do you see any value plays that you've highlighted saying, "Ooh, I think that they're a little bit off on this one"?
No, because I think that's honestly hard today, guys. The value, I don't know where exactly the value would stand, and I am pretty confident it is going to be one of the better players. But in full disclosure, I couldn't resist, and I'm not like a Team Brooks fanboy, but I did bet Brooks Koepka at 20-1. He just seems like the most reliable player in major championships. He shows up time and time again. The stats bear it out. Last year, he was not healthy. Strike that miscut away. He's got a second place here. He's got other top 10s here. This season alone, the courses where he's historically played well at, he's played well at. At Phoenix, he contended. At the Honda, he was 11th. He couldn't hit a putt. And at match play, which is a format that just suits everything Brooks kind of stands for, it was the first time he was healthy at that event in a couple years. He played really well. So it's almost a cop-out pick because I can't decide between so many of the others that I'm on it, that I am taking Brooks. And I do believe there's real value in Patrick Cantlay and some of those 25 to 1s I've been seeing right now. A month ago, when he lost in a playoff to Scotty Scheffler in Phoenix, it would have been his 4th straight top 10 coming off the FedEx Cup. He was a guy that you didn't think you were going to see a 25 to 1 this week. I don't care what he did at the Players. It's kind of a tournament that never has suited Cantlay. It's a total write-off for me, so I can ignore his player stats. And sometimes with betting on golf, guys, you have to just convince yourself. You have to create reasons to bet on guys, to not bet on guys. It's this really weird game that I find myself playing each week. But I do see myself very attracted to Patrick Cantlay at 25 to 1 as well.
Well, oh, man, remember that chick with him and that picture with him and all the girls in the hot tub? Just when you brought that up, I don't know why I just thought of that when you talked about your level of attracted to Patrick Cantlay. Nevertheless, when I think about Patrick Cantlay, when you brought up Adam Scott and you were high on him back in December at 80 to 1, I mean, I have to ask you, looking at Patrick Cantlay and how hot he was, even though the WGC, the match play, the Players, and then the match play didn't really suit him all that well. I mean, if we go back to December, Patrick Cantlay had to be number 1 on your list with a bullet, I would figure, right?
Yeah, he would have been real high. And if any, as guys like Cam Smith and Scotty Scheffler have been great, they've kind of risen up the odds board, and we've gotten maybe a boost on Patrick Cantlay. I trust him around the greens. I trust his bogey avoidance. He has that nice ball flight you like at the Masters. He's long enough. So there's a lot of things I do like about Patrick Cantlay. But I'm also like, from a bettor, and I got to make the case, I am willing to ignore some hiccups over the last couple weeks or tournament entries that maybe some people wouldn't.
Now, I'm glad you brought up Koepka, because I find he's one of those sexy names, and I like the value that you're talking about there. But the other 2 sexy names I just want to get your take on, because they always get a lot of focus. McIlroy and Dustin Johnson. How do you see them playing out here?
Okay, so I really do like Dustin Johnson, and very few players, at least in the last week or so, saw their numbers drop. Dustin being one of them. Now I'm seeing 16 to 1s. And I'll be so mad when you bet a guy at 20, you don't bet a guy at 16 because you take a few more points. It's this whole mental game you play with yourself as a golf bettor. But I do think Dustin is peaking, you could argue, perfectly. He finished the Players with an 8 under Sunday. He went to the match play and he went to the Final Four. This is a guy where maybe his whole schedule, you look at these golfers, and for the Masters, it's almost like a mini Olympics. It happens once a year. There's 4 majors a year, but all these top super elite golfers, in a perfect world, they try to peak at the perfect time, which would be right now. And in that case, it honestly does feel like Dustin, who took a long time to rev that engine to start the year, does look like he's peaking at the perfect time. Rory, not much buzz about Rory. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I don't think his miscut last week at the Valero is a bad thing at all. 3 of his last 6 wins have come off miscuts. Previous to the Valero, he gained over 2 strokes with his approaches in both events. Those are great signs for Rory McIlroy. Everyone wanting the history and Tiger, and I think the presence of Tiger is great for Rory. It's great for Schiller. It's great for Rahm. It takes so much oxygen out of this event. But the Rory Grand Slam, a lot of people are totally discounting it off his Valero showing. I am not. He is a guy, I did bet Brooks, but he's a guy that I am debating making that pick with, that other pick with, potentially over Cantlay. So I'm quite high on Rory.
Looking at some interesting prop bets as far as potential top 10 finishes are concerned. I'm really liking Shane Lowry. You know, if I go back to my take regarding Corey Connors, Shane Lowry has been hitting the ball just as crisp, if not, crisper than guys like Morikawa, even Patrick Cantlay, who we were just talking about, getting some good numbers of plus 425 for a top 10 finish, and even Will Zalatoris at plus 375 for a top 10. Can you convince me that those aren't good investments to make ahead of Thursday, Jeff?
No, I like both of them as investments. You sort of mentioned the way Lowry's been hitting the ball. Statistically, it has been better than some of the guys priced half his number. I do wish I was getting a bigger outright number if I was considering Shane Lowry, but I mean, Florida and his recent events have been really, really kind to Lowry, and there could be some weather this week, and he kind of fits that if things turn hairy as well. He's almost the perfect guy you might want. Will Zalatoris, I have bet him at 40-1. I have bet him at 40-1. I know it is a huge ask. He's never won a tournament before, and I'm asking him to win the Masters. And so that is something that you have to get over. I think the short putts, it could be a little over exaggerated. He's missed. Someone actually did the math, which is pretty crazy, but he's missed 10 of his 396 putts this year inside 5 feet. You're nervous, but he did change his stance and he did make some putter technique changes before the match play, and it seemed to have done wonders for him. He finished second place here last year. The one thing last week that I didn't think I was going to bet him for was because what I already told you. It's just too big of an ask. And all I would have needed from him would have been like to win the Sanderson Farms or win the RSM or even win some ridiculous, silly subfield event. And then this morning I woke up and said, wait, if he won some subfield event, I would have already bet this. Well, he lost in a playoff at Torrey Pines. And that's got to count for more, in my opinion. And the events that he contends in, they're like major championship hard venues. Torrey Pines, Quail Hollow, the Masters. He just seems like his first win is just as likely to be in some like jabroni field event, the 3M in Detroit, as it is to be some super stacked field. I've convinced myself of that, but I like both of them certainly for top 10s.
All right, guys, to wrap up here on the Three Horsemen podcast, courtesy of BetOnline.ag, Campbell, Star, Gallo, we have Jeff Feinberg. Follow him on Twitter at gfeinberg17, giving us all the odds and the breakdown of each player. Why don't we just pick some winners? Give me a winner and maybe a long shot. So give me two names. I'm going to ask each of you. It could both be long shots for all I know. I'm going to start things off and take Justin Thomas and Sergio Garcia as well. Those are my two. Gallo, I'll go to you. Give me two names.
Yeah, you know what? Jeff, with everything he just told us, really sold me on Dustin Johnson. So I'm going to go with Dustin Johnson as my favorite pick. I don't know what you're looking for as far as, how much or how big a long shot we have to look at.
I will accept anything.
Will you accept Spieth as a long shot?
Sure, we didn't mention him. How about that? That's a long shot because we didn't even mention him. Star?
I got to pick. He's still on the board. I feel like I'm doing a draft. I'm going to go with Scotty Scheffler. He's the hottest golfer on the planet right now. I fell in love with Scotty's dad after that embrace. Not only is he a great golfer, but he's just a great human being too. I just got to back Scotty Scheffler, and I'm going to stick to Corey Connors at almost. It's dropped. He opened at 50-1. He's dropped down. I love his ball striking. And man, if he can just putt, if he can just find 4 days with the flat stick, man, I love our chances of another Canadian man bringing home the green jacket one day.
Yeah, no one's taking Mike Weir.
Sunday would be nice too. Yeah.
Jeff, give me a pick and a long shot. I know you dropped a few in this conversation.
Yeah, so I guess I'm going to take Brooks Koepka. He just seems to be built for this stuff, and more Brooks Koepka hoarding more majors, I guess in that regard. Long shots, so they feel super rare. Even something around 50-1 these days feels like a potential Masters long shot. I'm going to say Adam Scott.
You had him at 80-1, so you might as well just stick with it. I like that you're sticking to your guns there, Jeff. Jeff, really appreciate you taking the time to join us here on the Three Horsemen podcast, courtesy of BetOnline.ag. And may all your bets, I know that all of them can't work out, but I hope some of them do.
I certainly hope to have a Sunday hero this week, friends.
Amen, brother. Thank you, Jeff.
So we are. Thank you very much, Jeff. That's it for us on the Three Horsemen podcast. Use that promo code Horsemen. Let us know what you think. Make your picks down below. That's it for us. We'll be back next week.